How are you?
Hello, so good to see you.
Oh, I have an event at my house tomorrow for the lieutenant governor. And it's been, my mom usually, she was gonna cook and I was really excited about it. And my dad got a lung transplant about a week and a half ago. And so that was not expected. And I mean, he was very ill, but so she's not cooking. So I was like, I guess it's my turn to try. So I'm like furiously texting her. So yeah, Jerry and I are doing it together. So just send some prayers our way.
I definitely will. And same for your dad. I hope that his recovery is going really well.
It's going I mean, it's a hard recovery. So, it's going as well as it can. So he's progressing nicely from ICU to hospital and now to the rehab center. So that's all you can, it's in God's hands. He's in God's hands. So hopefully we can just keep progressing forward.
I hope so. I'm really hopeful for y'all for that.
Yeah, he's using the fuel that he's the oldest transplant that Ohio State has done. So he's very he's 76. That's not a
Right.
young man, but
Mhm.
yeah.
It's exciting that he was able to have that
Yeah,
chance.
they split a pair of lungs. So my dad got the left and then a man who's 73 named Rick. We met his family. He got the right lung. So they both had environmental hazard lung fibrosis. So it was kind of, to think that one person, the family that donated, the individual that donated their organs, I think that it was 8 or 9 people that they saved with that donation. And I just find that to be just beyond comprehension, truly.
Yeah, I agree. Wow.
And it's just, you've learned so much about how many people are on the waiting list. So many people have hesitations or misunderstanding of what it means to be a donor. I found out that in Ohio, like a year, 2 years ago, they've made it law that people with Down syndrome could be on the transplant list. And I was like, wait, what? There's just so much we don't know about, so it's just, my husband was like, please no, you do education. He's like, do not mission creep. I was like, but it's like, so many people die waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Wow. Well, I'm so glad that your father was able to receive that. And I hope his recovery is so speedy. And I'm just really grateful
A
that
true miracle.
it happened for y'all. Yeah.
Yeah, a true miracle.
And I'm excited to hear about the event at your house afterwards.
I know it's hopefully, I'm doing Cuban food, just like little snacks, and hopefully it'll just be I just want the lieutenant governor to know that the education space values what he does. We do value it, so
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, worst case, people get to talk, and all the authorizers will be here, a lot of people that don't normally get to be together anymore
Yeah,
will get a chance to kind of connect, and I think that's
I agree. I agree. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and start getting us ready to kick off in just a little bit.
I'm so excited. I actually have a couple of Zooms later on this week after submission for some people that are submitting that now want to ask me, what was the experience like? So we're pivoting from all the application questions I get to what was the experience like? So that's going to be an interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious what they'll ask, and hopefully this webinar they registered for it so we can send it to them, and hopefully it's helpful for them as well.
Yeah, I think I have this week Arthur Samuels and Rafiq. So I'm just it's just really interesting how people, I'm like, well, I don't know how to, I don't know how to explain it. The experience is going to be what you make of it. I don't know. It's hard to explain it until you experience it.
So true. And it's different for everyone.
That's right. I agree.
Hopefully we have a few more folks join us. I know we have lots of registrants who are going to be able to watch this afterwards also. Since it's the middle of the work day and it's hard to get away sometimes, but we'll get started right around 9 Pacific time, and which I believe is noon Eastern. Right now, I'm in San Diego, so
Oh,
working out.
you're gonna miss you.
Yes.
Next year, I'm not going to miss it. I'm not gonna there's not gonna be a reason I miss it, hopefully. So I'm going to be there next year.
It's fun. There's a lot of great stuff happening.
There's a lot of people I know there that I would just love to connect with that I haven't had a chance to. And it's like, people are like, well, you can connect. And I'm like, when we're in Des Moines, when we're going to West Virginia, like when can I? Those are the only times you kind of get those moments to connect with people that are so busy.
Right.
Okay. Uh, so. Earliest. My house smells like full pork and garlic. It's like I'm like, are all my clothes gonna smell? That's like what's gonna happen.
Maybe, but that sounds absolutely delicious. It's making my stomach start to growl thinking about it.
My goodness, it's very intense. Taylor, she's there too.
Yes, I got to see her for just a little bit yesterday. Welcome, welcome. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get started. We're so excited to have all of you with us today. My hope is that this webinar helps equip you with valuable insights as you complete your application this week. The application closes in just 2 days. You have time if you are just getting started or if you've been working on it for a long time, it is okay. There is plenty of time to get this in, and we'll talk you through the various aspects of that today. My name is Marcy Donas, and I am the Senior Director of the YAS Prize. This is our 8th and final webinar before the application closes on Thursday. And we've just really been trying to shed a light on what we're looking for and share information that makes the application process as smooth and simple as possible for all of you. My colleague Cassie is also on with us and will be supporting the chat. And our time today really has 2 clear purposes. One of those is to talk about the benefits of the YAS Prize, both for applicants and awardees. And the second is to share why there is every reason for you to submit and no reason not to. We have some amazing alumni joining us today. We have Chris Galassi-Worrell, the Vice President of Oakmont Education. We have Taylor Shedd, the founder and CEO of Stimuli. And we might be having Brian Kersey also join, who is the co-founder of Rapunzel. And that is going to be the best part of the entire webinar, just hearing from the awardees and what their experience has been like and sharing their insights and wisdom with all of you. So before we get started, we encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat, share who you are and where you're calling in from. And if you have questions about any of this, put those questions in the Q&A feature. We're going to track them all there. So please don't put them in the chat, but put them in the Q&A feature so we can track and monitor which ones we've answered and which ones we still need to answer. Okay. Before we hop in fully, I do want to talk for just a second about the eligibility criteria. If you can answer yes to these 5 things, you are in fact eligible. It's really simple and straightforward. And most people's actual wondering when they ask me about eligibility is more of whether they should take the time to apply, if they're competitive enough, if it's worth the time. And what I would encourage you with is that you need to take that bet on yourself and the great work you're doing, the great work your organization is doing, and spend the 4 to 6 hours. You could obviously spend a lot more, but really try to just do that 4 to 6 hours of time, get that application in, because there are so many benefits that come when you do. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. We know you're so busy. So let's jump right into why so you can get to your application and submit. The first reason you should absolutely submit your application is because when you do, every single applicant gets access to our YAS Prize or YAS Prize movement platform. And this map over here on the right-hand side just shows where all of our people are located. And this isn't just applicants, this is our awardees and applicants all together. And there are definitely things that are exclusive to our awardees, but this is not one of them. The way I like to think about this platform is that this is your personalized LinkedIn for the education innovation community. So you can reach out and say, hey to Chris, or hi to Brian, ask them a question, hear what's going on with other people on the platform, search by specific things like state or type of work people are doing, which can be really helpful when you're trying to network and get to know people doing amazing things across the country and across sectors. If you're an awardee, you also get access to specific groups on the platform where you can talk with people just in your awardee group. The second reason I would say to go ahead and apply is because you get access to our 3-week virtual accelerator bootcamp. And this is for everyone. Every single person that submits an application gets invited to this, and you'll have access to a whole host of speakers, some in education, some not, some in business, some in finance, some that have coached celebrities. It's pretty different from other types of education conferences because we do try to bring in those industry experts from many different fields to make sure that you have access to some great development. And if you're a awardee, you'll also, and one of our 50 semifinalists, you'll also come join us in Miami for our in-person accelerator. The bar and talent of speakers there just continues to go up, and you get that opportunity to connect with all the other awardees, start building those relationships as well. And you'll also be able to do your 3-minute pitch for why your organization should be the $1 million prize winner. The third reason I would say to get that application in is because the YAS Prize gives important exposure to other leaders who are redefining what pre-K to 12th grade education can be. And we encourage collaboration amongst the group for that. If you have been with us through each webinar, you will have met many of these leaders from different states, different sectors. No two leaders or organizations are the same, but they all bring such a high degree of passion, of innovation, of experience, and expertise. And so getting together with those people and getting to meet them brings an opportunity to collaborate in a way that is not always available. Okay, and the YAS Prize does aim to support our alumni past their award year. You know, we could say, you know, good luck, congratulations, here's your money, and wash our hands, but we really try not to do that. We try to do more for our alumni and continue to engage people over time. We want to stay in constant communication with our alum, which I know that Chris and Taylor and Brian probably can speak to. And it looks different, and we try to make it different for different people and what they need and want. But some people want press support, and we want to provide that. Some people want connections based on states or based on a specific challenge they're having. And so making connections for them to help move through those challenges that all leaders and organizations face. There are speaking opportunities, conference opportunities. There are a group of awardees that are currently contributors to Forbes through our partnership. And that includes all 3 of the people online with us right now. And right now we're at ASU GSB, and we have a couple of alumni out here to speak with us and help share about the YAS Prize and also make sure that they get exposure for the amazing organizations that they're leading as well. So before I move on, I'll just leave you with a quick quote, and we can hop into some other pieces of our time today. But Jeff Emrich, a 2021 finalist, is a co-founder of Rock by Rock. And he said, "You're not going to regret pressing submit, and you'll never know if you don't try." So 6 months from now, you don't want to look back and think, gosh, I wish I could have been part of that network. So it takes 4 to 6 hours to submit to an application. We don't want this to take a whole week of your time. So you don't have a week. Thursday is coming up. It's almost here. So don't perseverate, tell your story, press submit. My team will be available to you today and tomorrow. and we will do our very best to support you if you have any questions. But really try to get that application in sooner rather than later. Okay, and I talked a little bit about this as well, but our alumni also join us for other important events. And these are pictures of our finalists from this year with us in DC, talking to some governors about the incredible work they're doing and policy that could support that work ongoing. Okay, before we get to talk with Taylor and Brian and Chris, a few key reminders on application dates. The application window closes Thursday, noon Eastern time, noon Eastern time. It will not stay open no matter what. It will close down and we won't be able to submit on the back end for you. So please get that in advance to make sure you avoid any tech issues. Our application will close then. We have one additional office hour tomorrow. So if you do have questions, you can stop by office hours tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We will announce the 50 semifinalists on September 5th via a live stream. Our second annual YAS Summit is in New York City on September 12th. Our semifinalists will attend the YAS Prize Accelerator in Miami the week of October 14th to engage in development, build their network and connections, and deliver their 3-minute pitch. And then the 2024 finalists and the $1 million YAS Prize winner will be announced at the gala on November 7th in Washington, D.C. And for awardees, it is mandatory to attend the Summit, Accelerator, and Gala. So please book those dates in your calendar. Those dates are also on our website and in the application. Okay. Now for the time we've all been waiting for, our conversation with our alumni. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. And I'm just going to ask the three of you to share a little bit about yourself. So a quick 1-minute overview. Who are you? Where do you work? And what do you do? And we'll start with Chris and then go to Taylor and Brian.
Hi, I'm Chris Galassi-Worrell. I am the Vice President of Oakmont Education. We are a provider, a public charter school network provider for dropout recovery schools for students who have dropped out of high school for various reasons. And we are focused on a sector strategy approach, heavy with career technical education and work-based learning. Fun fact about me, I was a former at-risk, which we call now Opportunity Youth, and I was dropped out of high school in the 90s and had a non-linear pathway myself. So really excited to be here, really excited at all of the diversity we see throughout our applicants, and pumped to see two of my favorites here with me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Shedd, founder and CEO of Stimuli Studios. I love to say that we were part of the first class of the YAS Prize back in 2021 when we first kicked off. So Stimuli built school in a video game, and we're at the intersection of like AI, workforce development, and education. So super exciting space. And I guess just like quick backstory, when we won the YAS Prize, we had just launched our technology and a large school district in August. We won in December. We went on then to raise some venture capital back in May of 2022, our seed round, and now we're going up for our Series A and have grown so much throughout the duration of just like being partnered with the YAS Prize. So super excited to meet you all and answer any questions you have today.
Awesome. So I'm Brian Curcio, one of the founders of Rapunzel, which is a gamified financial literacy platform for middle and high school students, where students simulate $10,000 portfolios and enter them into a scholarship competition. And I'm joining the panel a little from the road. I filled in chaperoning with a high school that we work with in New York and got to see the Federal Reserve Bank's gold vaults this morning, but I'm kind of bouncing around, but excited to chat with my two favorite panelists, I think.
Love to hear it. That's an exciting field trip. I'm glad you were able to join. Before we get to our Q&A, I have a couple of questions for y'all that I'd love to just hear your responses to. And hopefully that's helpful for our attendees to hear as well. So I'll kick us off with, what is your favorite stock principle? When thinking about our pillars: sustainable, transformational, outstanding, and permissionless, which one really sticks out to you? And then how has your embodiment of that evolved since you originally won the prize? And we can start with Brian and work backwards this time, Brian to Taylor to.
I think I'd have to say permissionless. I mean, I think when you meet other people inside the Yoss Prize, outstanding kind of comes without saying. Everyone you meet is outstanding, but this idea of permissionless and really kind of showing up in spaces that you may not have been invited to. I mean, I think of Chris immediately like expanding from Ohio into Iowa, and it's like not necessarily waiting for Iowa to say yes, but it's like, no, this is coming. The kids need this. So I think this idea of really addressing students' needs and kind of working outside the system if one needs to ensure those outcomes. I think from the lens of Rapunzel, we drove to about 140 high schools our first year, just showing up at the main offices. And I think that principle really kind of played through a lot of the finalists during my cohort.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be original, so I'm gonna say permissionless is also one of my favorite principles, maybe from a slight different perspective. So when I came into the Yoss Prize, I was working with a large public school in Dallas, super passionate about it. And I was kind of raised in the notion of like, hey, charter schools are bad for public schools. And like, that's all that we had ever heard. And so a couple of things happened since then. One, I ended up in a situation where, let's say it was almost like a legal dispute with the school district I was working with. And so our mission at Stimuli is we want to serve as many students as possible across the nation and really across the world. And it was really awesome to be able to look at one of the leaders of the Yoss Prize and Jeannie Allen, as well as here's the stories of the other Yoss Prize recipients, and just like have a shining example of like, no matter how many times somebody tells you no, you don't have to accept no as an answer. You can still accomplish anything that you want to. And so for me, permissionless is not only something that leaders of the Yoss Prize have embodied for me, just like woman to woman, as far as like how you kind of have to be daring and go after your passions, but then also from a business model perspective it's really opened my eyes to you don't have to think inside the box. So if our goal at Stimuli is to get our application into as many students' hands as possible, then we don't have to follow any traditional path, whether it's like, here's what venture capitalists say you should do, here's what other traditional businesses have done. Like, it's not about that. It's really just about driving for impact. So I would really second that and say that permissionless is one of my favorite STOP principles as well.
I mean, I'm gonna say permissionless, but I want to say that with a pin in it because it's almost a balance between permissionless and sustainability for me. Because, we are actually like, I've had like 15 texts about Iowa. We are expanding into Iowa and we're getting that building kind of ready to go. And when that building starts going, everything kind of gets hectic. And like Brian said, I think permissionless is what separates the outstanding from the next level, is that permissionless kind of mentality, but also to balance the permissionless, that part of you or your organization, to make sure that what you're pushing for and beyond is also sustainable, so that you don't do that like as an exercise in futility, so that so for me, it's permissionless. Absolutely. That's what sets the people that are part of the Yoss Prize winning family. That's what sets them all apart. Like, look at what Taylor and Brian are doing. It's remarkable. And you can like look at all the years and see that. But I think it's a balance with making sure that aspect is sustainable long-term, so that it doesn't burn out and has longer-term impact.
I love hearing how you all three like share about permission in different ways. Brian, were you going to add on as well?
I was just gonna play into, I guess, what Chris was saying, that with sustainability as well, that might be my second favorite. But I will say that as we went through at least the Miami Accelerator for us, that was where a huge focus was placed on our application. Was you do all this great permissionless work, it's outstanding, but how are you going to be able to do this in 5 years, 10 years? Like, how do you make this a meaningful change? And I think that's another important piece to highlight, that it's not just about showing up and doing something crazy, but it's like, how can that crazy act kind of be built into the system and change outcomes kind of long-term sustainability? I think matters too.
Yeah, I'm gonna just like co-sign that and add a little insider information. So the way we internally talk about the Yas Prize is that it is a prize. And so as you look at even the other STOP principles, transformational and outstanding, understand that when you write your applications, you should be talking about some of the great work and the great data that you've already done, because you're truly getting a reward for that work. And that work should be so awesome and so cool and producing such great results that the Yas Prize is saying, we want to support you to continue and expand that work. So I think that's something also important to look at, that it's really about who you already are, what you already embody on a daily basis is the reason why you win. And really the capital or the funding and the network and the resources you get is about how can we now expand what you're already doing. That's phenomenal. And that's a slight different thinking than a grant. Sometimes grants are just built for what do you want to do, what's your future plans, and it has nothing to do with your previous track record, or very small to do with your previous track record. So we really do look at this like a prize and a gold medal, where everybody doesn't get a participation trophy, but it's about, how you've delivered outstanding results.
Absolutely. It's really helpful guidance also for that final application push. And it makes me start to go to my second question, which, Brian, you started to talk about the accelerator, and we've talked about different experiences that you have as an awardee. But I'd be curious what each of you would say is your most valuable experience as a Yas Prize awardee, and how that's benefited you or in your organization over time. Because you've had so many different ones. Yeah, I could think of various things. So I'm curious, what's the most valuable experience for y'all? And I'll have Chris start us off.
There's just so many. I mean, it could be we're focused on an experience, I would say that for me, like getting to know the different applicants and winners in a deeper way, and understanding where their expertise and like their exceptional, programs or organizations can kind of dovetail into the work we're doing, and we can all work together to amplify. I think that like that overarching experience is ongoing, and that's kind of is very unique, is that a lot of times when you do a grant or you get something or you win an award, it's like kind of like, oh, you're like, it's new and it's exciting, and 6 months later you've never heard from these people again and they're gone. This actually, it's like, it strengthens as time goes on. If you put the work into it and you've stayed connected, and I think the experience getting to be a part of it, not going into the second and third year, that to me has been the most valuable. Relationships professionally and personally with different awardees, for me, has been the most valuable experience that I've gotten.
Okay, I'll just jump in pretending like we're going in this order. So I'm gonna talk really fast because I want to mention like a couple of different experiences. But number one, the very first experience, being a part of the first class, the first year, the Yas Prize only thought they were going to give away $1 million to one organization, and they were so touched by how transformative multiple organizations were that we had like an Oprah moment in a room at a dinner one night where they're like, hey, if you're in the room, you get $100,000 each, and there's 20 different organizations there. The second thing that was that same year is when we had our first event to announce the $1 million prize winner at Forbes. I was super excited because I had never been into Forbes, but I had always had a goal of like being in Forbes. And I got to take some of the students that helped build the application, help use the application with us. And so just the idea that like I was crossing a barrier that I had never done as an adult, and the students were coming right alongside me. Super exciting. And then the last like really quick 2 points is that you're always in the right room. And so like we've been in the room with like governors multiple times where governors know us. I could be like walking in the street, and if a governor ran into me, like he would shake my hand and like he would know exactly who I am and what I do. Last year I got to stand on stage right after Kendall Jenner at the Forbes 30 Under 30 Summit and talk about some of our like fellow prize winners and some of the work we do and some of the impact that the prize had on our organization, and people stopped to listen. And so just elevating the voices of really important people is like so impactful. And to Chris's point, like the fact that we have a family and we know we're going to see each other multiple times a year is simply like irreplaceable, because everybody has these hardships that you go through personally and professionally. but to really be with a network of like-minded people, passionate about the same things, maybe going about work in a different way, but there to support you through every step. There's really no better place to be than here. So those are all of my multitude of experiences. And I have lists of others that, you know, we'll talk some other time and I can tell you about Brian sending me to the World Series. So
I do want to say Kendall Jenner, I was there at that Forbes event, is as beautiful in person. She is beautiful and very, very gracious. And that was, I don't get starstruck a lot, but I was like, wow, I'm tall, but she's taller than me. So it was a really cool moment to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what both you guys are saying, that it's really just this community. I think that Miami Accelerator for me was that first exposure to it. And working in the ed tech side of things, I think that we get really kind of narrow-minded of like, how can't we be getting responses back? Or like, why don't people care about this? And so I think sitting in a room where you have public, charter, micro schools, other ed tech companies, and seeing that passion across these different verticals, I think was really reinvigorating. And then also going into the accelerator, I would say 90% of our funding was derived from kind of corporate partnerships and donations. And so just working with some of the public districts and chartered networks being like, okay, well, how would you pay for this? And so I mean, we completely figured out how to make this more sustainable, sitting in a room, just kind of asking questions. And I think that sounding boards continued to be incredibly valuable the past couple of years.
Thanks for sharing all of your different perspectives there. It's fun to hear what y'all have been doing and things that I never even knew happened, because there's so much that goes on, so much that y'all are into that I've heard so much, but there's even more that's going on and how y'all have been connecting. So it's cool to hear. Let's go to who are some of your other YAS Prize awardees that you've collaborated with? And what did those collaborations look like? I've heard a little bit about them, but I'd love to hear a little bit more. So who are you collaborating with in the awardee group? And then what's that looked like for y'all? And Taylor looks like she's about to jump in.
Cool. There's like a lot of different collaborations. So again, I'll talk really fast, but we do some work with Arizona Autism Charter Schools. And so that collaboration is basically like, how do we take our video game app that a lot of students with autism are kind of obsessed with video games and get it in their hands in a way that actually works for them and benefits them. And so it's going to be a long-term collaboration because we're still building a lot at Stimuli, but recently we've donated about 80 VR headsets that were given to us from another corporate partner to them. And so it's just like, I love thinking about it as like the giving tree, you know, like we get something and who else can we give it to within our network? And then the other cool collaborations is Louisiana Key Academy, who serves students with dyslexia, same type of thing. We want to make sure our video game is accessible for everyone. So just collaborating with them during product development as well as like releasing the product has been exciting. And then one of the funnest things that isn't released yet, but I'm excited about is High School for Recording Arts. It was a part of the first class cohort. And so we were given some alumni funds to build a high school for recording arts, a music metaverse on our video game. And so that's something that when it's available will not only serve their students really well, but will expand their programming to serve other YAS Prize students and just kind of have like where high school students can experience running a record label in a video game. So, I mean, you know, just super exciting work, and it's all supported by the alumni grants, and then as well as just like the network of people saying, let's do something, let's be early adopters of your initiative in your video game.
Well, we have a couple of things we're doing, but I think one is really kind of unique and neat because we're a public charter operator, and we partnered with Chickasaw City Schools in Alabama, and our students, we purchased these humongous 3D printers. We wrote a grant and we went and bought these printers in collaboration with Brian from the district, and they were winners in our class, which I think we were the second class. But our students are now in our advanced manufacturing printing 3D prosthetic legs, and we are doing that in partnership with Chickasaw Schools. They do the same program with their students, and we are working on setting up our students and their students on a field trip to a developing nation where they're going to be fitting these amputees, learning about the area that these legs are going to. And now we are expanding into prosthetic hands and going to be working to take that to them because a provider heard about what we were doing, didn't know really about Chickasaw. And when they came to us, we were like, hands, absolutely. And we went to Chickasaw and said, what about you guys? So we've been best practicing across public charter, public district. So that's really cool. I know that our students, some of our schools are adopting Rapunzel, which is Brian's been an early partner of ours, and trying to get Stimuli off the ground. Our kids are a little less video game focused and a little more monetized focused. So maybe figuring out how that video game can kind of go in that. But the thing I think that is kind of unique is when you're able to say, wow, I have this like missing piece that I think could be kind of cool. And someone like Taylor's like, that's not a missing piece. Like it's already done. And it's either me or it's this person. It's just the depth of, it's like an encyclopedia set. For those of you who are old enough to remember the encyclopedia set, it's not like the Cliff Notes. The Osprize is like the full encyclopedia set that you have. There's not a missing piece. There's not a missing volume. It's like the whole thing. So that's really cool. And then we're in the very early stages of trying to get Uncommon Construction up in Cleveland to become our partner, because our students currently partner with Habitat across the state, but we are always looking for additional partners. And we think that that is just an incredible kind of alliance that can benefit our students, and bringing them to Ohio. There's just so much that they can do here. So it's just kind of endless being part of that Encyclopedia Britannica, which I was obsessed with as a child.
Okay, I don't have any partnerships as cool as Prosthetic Hands. But I mean, I will say the Osprey totally opened up in terms of, I mean, we were able to expand to Arizona. We had a couple of schools in Texas that joined. There's CompSci High, which was a semifinalist last year in New York, that's joining, and Capital Prep was one of our finalists. So
we work with a lot of schools on the financial literacy, particularly mostly on the high school curriculum, but then we're also working with Melanin Village, which was a finalist last year, looking at kind of taking that program and making it more friendly for homeschool and micro schools, just because a lot of times when we're teaching kids, we realize that their parents don't understand these kind of finance basics. And then also working with Lumen Schools in Wisconsin on figuring out how to make it fit more for a financial math track in middle school. So it's been really helpful having partners. I think otherwise, if we didn't have this community, I'm not sure if we would have taken the leap to build homeschool curriculum or middle school, because it was like, no, we'll just stick with what's tried and true. And I think that that's what's really cool about the community, is you build such strong relationships that then you want to grow your program to be able to work with those students as well, I think. And so that's where we've kind of continued to grow.
Thanks for letting us see inside all the collaborations y'all are a part of right now, or at least a snippet of them. Before I get to my very last question, I'm going to just remind everyone to put some questions in the Q&A. We're about to open up the Q&A, and I'm going to ask Brian and Taylor and Chris to stick around and help us with that. So it can be technical questions, or it could be broader questions about the experience or the application process. Okay, so get those questions in the Q&A. And my last question for each of you is, do you have any final advice for this year's applicants that you would want to share with them?
I think really when showing up to these events, I mean, I'm thinking from the application side, I'm just looking more forward. I'm thinking it's really cool to realize that when you're in these rooms with other applicants, they're not really your
competitors. And I know it feels like right now kind of seeing people on Zoom, but once you realize this shared passion, I know that I was in Chris's class, and on our way to learning who became semifinalists or who became the finalists at the end, it felt so much like a toss-up, where it's like there's 32 unbelievable organizations and some of us are going to win. So I think just having that open mind, you're really able to, everyone can be a winner, I think, as long as you're kind of taking these takeaways from the other organizations and growing that network throughout the process.
Yeah, as far as my advice, the first thing I would say is definitely apply. When I applied the first year, I honestly might have seen the advertisement for the app like 2 days before it was due. there were some typos in my application. I'm not promoting typos. Please don't have typos if you can avoid it. But just the point of like, I got my app in and I was like almost desperate just to see what could happen. And I've been rewarded like hand over fist for doing that. So that's the first thing, is apply. Even if maybe you're questioning, are you ready or not? Like, you can always continue to apply over the years in the event that you don't get in the first year. And then the second thing is, it's going to be advice for the future. So let's pretend that everybody on this call gets in and you guys are all the awardees, even though there's thousands selected. There is a distinct difference of your mentality, even after being awarded. Some people really lean in and are saying like, how can I give as much back to the organization and to the people and participate as much as possible, and others sometimes don't. And what I will tell you is that if you do lean in, it's going to continue to be like a reciprocal effort where you're going to continue to get more out than you put in. And so if you kind of have this challenge of, I want to put more in than I take, then it's just going to continue like an infinity symbol and like feeding the work that's being done. And so that comes from all sides. That comes from capital, that comes from the people resources, the promotion, the platforms, really all around. Whatever you're trying to do, like, you can get all of it here, and you don't really have to look outside of this network to be able to achieve what you want to do. So saying that again, apply. And then 2, when you get in, participate.
Yeah, I 100% what Brian and Taylor have said. I think, obviously apply, be brave, just do it, even if you don't think it's perfect, like Taylor said. But I would also say, be open. Try to leave any preconceived notions you have about any type of like educational delivery modality or product or organization or private versus public versus secular, non-secular. Let it go. Any kind of notions that you've had or what you've been, what stories you've heard or the things you've seen, and really come to the place with an open mind and an open heart. And you're going to be really surprised at the growth that you're going to have personally, your organization's going to have, and the connections you're going to make when you're able to do that. Because I know I had a lot of, like Taylor talked a little bit about earlier about her charter schools were bad. I had a lot of different preconceived notions, and I've been able to expand and stretch myself, as have others in my organization. And I would just say, be really open to everything, because it's an unbelievable journey like nothing else. So be open.
Thanks, y'all. We've got a few questions and hopefully a few more will come through. I'll read them out for us and share what I know. And then if y'all have any other perspective, I'd ask you just hop right in and share as well. So Anna is asking us, have you worked with international applicants and or awardees? I can share from the YAS Prize perspective that one of the eligibility criteria is that you're headquartered and working in the United States or Puerto Rico. So that is, for this moment and this awardee cycle, our boundary on that. I'm sure our awardees have worked with other people internationally and otherwise, but for the YAS Prize specifically, it is focused on the United States and Puerto Rico.
Yeah, just echoing that the work is focused on what's done domestically. But there are a lot of us that have like done some work abroad, so that doesn't cancel you out. But I would definitely focus the application on what you've done here.
And then Kristen's asking, is the summit in New York City open to applicants, even if they're not chosen as a finalist? The registration is actually open right now. So all of our applicants will find out if they are a semifinalist the week before. So it's really close right up to that date. But technically the registration is open right now. And so people are invited to register if that's something that you're interested in. You can find more information out on yasprize.org as well. See, and that's the only other question right now. So if you have anything else, feel free to put it in the Q&A, and we'll get to it. I'll let it just sit for a second. Chris, hop
I'll
in.
tell you about the summit really quick since you talked about it. It was really cool. We did it in Cleveland this year, the inaugural summit that had incredible panels. There were really incredible speakers. There was a lot of time for fellowship with other people there. So if you're planning on going, I'm going to be there. God willing. I'm like turning into my mother, and I say that at the end of every sentence now. But it's a really unique event. It's really cool, and it's just I know I keep saying it's unique, but it really is. And I've been in this space since like 2000. So it's a 24 years. It's a lot of experience. So the data points I have truly show a model of uniqueness. So it's really something different. So I'm excited to get to meet some of you guys.
If you use ChatGPT on your application, please take out all the flowery words. Enough of us have used it that we will be able to recognize it, and I'm not sure that we'll love that too much. Use it to help you out, but do some work and make it in your own voice.
Use ChatGPT as your copy editor, like to put your information in it and say, just edit my copy for issues, and then let it do its thing. That's what I found to be the best, to just edit my work. Please look for my typos. I do a lot of Siri spelling, a lot of talking, and please look at this ChatGPT. Does this make sense?
Okay, Stephanie asked, what was your greatest challenge being part of the Yas Prize awardee program?
Challenge?
Hmm?
I mean, you do have to pitch, so.
Mine is very, the pitch,
yeah.
pitch.
So part of like going from, I guess, the semifinalist to the finalist is you essentially end up doing like a 3 to 5 minute pitch at the end of the in-person accelerator. I'm gonna be honest, because like I'm from the for-profit business world, I have to pitch all the time, so I probably had a little bit of an advantage over a principal that doesn't have to do the Shark Tank like pitches, but you do have to be able to pitch and represent yourselves well. And so, clearly articulating your vision quickly, clearly telling a story, making it cohesive. You don't have to worry about that now. Like, I wouldn't worry about it too much. They fly in a lot of people to actually help you with the entire process, including us, to give you feedback. But otherwise, like, I don't necessarily know that that's a challenge. I mean, the next thing is like, yeah, it is a time commitment. And so if you do sign up, like, it's in your best advantage to show up. And if you're not willing to show up, I would say don't apply, because there's other people that would be dying to have the opportunity that you have. So if you do like go in and make it through, like figure out how to make it happen when you're there and you're present.
Yeah, be present. I think being present is really important, but I think the pitch was the most difficult because I had my partner, a colleague of mine come with me. And so I think we never argue. We're like best friends. He is a 60-year-old man, but we are best friends. It's like, we're like twins, the movie, but we got like, it was very tense because there was a lot on the line, and it was just, we weren't used to doing that. And so that was, I think, the most challenging experience, was not just letting it go and being like, it's done now, and just having the faith that we had completed it. But that was a challenge. That was a stretch for us.
I
Those are
would
the-
echo the 3 minutes. Oh, sorry, Taylor.
No, sorry, I was going to some other questions I saw in the chat.
Yeah, let's do that. I was just gonna echo what you guys were saying. I would say that also you deal with much greater challenges in your organization outside of the Yas Prize, that it's like really understanding what your organization does, what your why is. The 3-minute speech does come from that. I mean, I think there were very few people that came down and had a 3-minute speech memorized when they went to the accelerator, and
Those who did have it memorized rewrote the whole thing. And so I think that you do get a ton of input from these various speakers during that time. And so I wouldn't come down with a prepared 3-minute speech and really have it all fleshed out, because that's part of the point of staying open during the accelerator, is
allowing that new information to kind of modify that pitch.
That's good advice.
Yeah, so the question I was going to answer in the chat was from Raven Collins, who says, we serve human trafficking survivors. They participate in our coding training program and are placed into tech careers through our program. The age range of participants is 16 and up. They are students while participating, but are we eliminated because the majority of our students are adults? I'm going to go off script and say that I think you should apply anyway, and maybe in your application talk about like, are these people, are they like also dual enrolled in a high school program, or is this like their next version of high school? But I would go ahead and like put your application in and kind of let the prize decide where it fits, just because I think the application and the folks judging it and the leadership want to know amazing things that are happening that they might not even thought like needed to exist, or they might not know exist. And so it's worth your shot to just see like where you fit. And that's me going like completely off script, but it sounds like you do some awesome work. So I would definitely give it a try.
And DOL is 16 to 24 is an opportunity youth in the Department of Labor. So you're considered an opportunity youth until you're 24 years old. So people don't often think that also for purposes of high school.
From the Yas Prize team, I have nothing to add to that. I think that those are excellent answers, and I would also encourage you to apply. We are almost at time. We have one question left. It looks like that we haven't answered yet, and it's, oh, we have a couple. Let's go down and see. Here we go. What is one question that you haven't been asked that you would want to be asked, that you feel like should be answered?
I'll just tell you something that I might not have said because skip the question part and tell you some info. Make sure you put data in. Like when I think of sustainable, I'll just tell you like when I think of STOP, I'll tell you what answers I want to hear when I'm sizing you up for this prize. Sustainability is all around like how do you move from philanthropic funding to something that's going to be sustainably supported. Transformative, to me that screams data. Like what are you doing that's like maybe very unique, or like how are you transforming the lives of young people? Outstanding, kind of same thing. Like what are the results from that transformation, or like that unique perspective you have? And then permissionless is, think of that maybe like, in my opinion, like a resilience question. So either like, have you overcome a challenge and here's how you solved it? And, or how are you setting up systems that allow students and parents to be more permissionless, where they're not dependent on the certain systems in order to get the information they need to make the decisions that they need to make. So sustainable is how are you lasting a long time without always having to go to philanthropists for money. Transformative, your unique perspective, how are you transforming the lives of people in a unique way? Outstanding, very data-driven. And permissionless is how are you expanding options for people where they don't have to depend on systems and the information that they're told, but they can actually be equipped with the right information to make the best decisions for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to second data, because data tells your story. Like everybody, we have a story, which is awesome and incredible. Everybody has a story that's here, but when you have data, that's proof of the story you're telling. And that's really, really, really important. So show your impact. Also in permissionless, show how you're going to take that to the next level.
Hey, y'all, we are right at time. I'm gonna pause this here to make sure that we can all get out on time. Brian, Taylor, and Chris, if you can just hang for 1 second, I'm gonna take a quick screenshot. Thank you so much for everyone for being here. Y'all are incredibly just wise and thoughtful, and hearing from your perspectives is so helpful. So thank you to the three of you. Thank you also to the applicants. Get your application in and make sure that that happens noon Thursday. Do not wait until noon Thursday, but get it in hopefully today, tomorrow. We have one last office hours tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Come and join. But we cannot wait to read those applications and are so excited for this next group of awardees. So thank you so much. 1 second, I'll take our quick screenshot and then y'all can hop off as well. All right. 1, 2, 3. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. I think Jerry's in my house, so I got to go check it out.
All right, tell them I said hi.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.